Hi everyone, a warm welcome to Life, Loss and Hope. It's nearly 3 years since we started these videos to support a community who are bereaved and suffering loss. So please continue to like and to subscribe and to leave comments. Today I'm going to be talking about fear and grief. After the death of his beloved wife, C.S. Lewis was quoted to say, "I never knew grief felt so like fear." So today I'm going to be unpacking why this quote is so relevant in multiple ways as we grieve. Grief is one of life's most profound and universal experiences. It's a testament to love, connection, and the bonds that make us human. And yet in its rawest moments, grief can feel strikingly like fear, an unsettling mix of dread, unease, and vulnerability. Why does this happen? What is it about the grieving process that stirs our deepest fears? We're going to explore this question through a holistic lens, weaving together insights from psychology, neuroscience, and spirituality. At its core, grief is a response to loss, a recalibration of our inner world after something or someone we value is no longer here. And what is fear? Fear is an emotion caused by danger, the threat of harm, loss or pain, and a reaction to actual loss. It's the body's natural flight or fight response to anything that threatens our well-being and safety, bringing physical sensations such as a racing heart, shallow breathing, or that ever-present knot in your stomach. Feeling fearful in this way can range from a mild level of concern and anxiety, a sense of dread or impending doom, and worry, to more heightened levels of panic, terror, accompanied by many different physical, cognitive, and emotional symptoms. Feeling fear is an automatic human response that, although can be managed, is very real, unpleasant, scary, and can be all-consuming. The overlap between fear and grief is really no coincidence because they both activate the same part of the brain, the amygdala, the control center for processing emotions and threats. And therefore, when we experience loss, our brain perceives it as a life-threatening kind of danger. The world we knew, our routines, our sense of stability, even our identity has been disrupted and shattered. So the amygdala reacts by sending out signals to protect us, flooding our body with stress hormones that affect our minds and bodies and putting us on high alert, thus producing many different anxieties. So first, let's look at anticipatory loss and the fear that it can bring. This type of fear can start when symptoms are noticed, perhaps with a diagnosis when someone has a long illness or debilitating condition, as your lives become hijacked by a roller coaster of appointments, scans, tests, waiting for results, and watching a loved one becoming increasingly poorly. We are thrust into the unknown, uncharted territory that can herald the beginning of a grieving process, bringing lots of anxiety and stress. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, a relationship, or a sense of purpose, it forces us to confront the uncertainty, which looks very disturbing, and we ask ourselves questions like, how can I carry on without them? How will I ever be able to sort things out? Who will I be without them? And what's the meaning of life now? And will I ever feel normal again? These questions can make us fearfully preoccupied because as humans we crave certainty, stability, and safety. And in the absence of answers, our minds can go into overdrive of ruminations about the worst case scenarios, and we can easily become overwhelmed. Fear can paralyze us. Even small decisions can feel impossible to make, and our rational thinking can be impaired. We can be like the proverbial rabbit in the headlights. And additionally, we may have bodily pain, sleep disturbances, headaches, itchy skin, be irritable, short-fused, forgetful, and be unable to think straight. This is anticipatory grief, as we often grieve before a loss. I remember my dear stepmother saying that she did most of her grieving before my father died. She grieved 100 things as my father lost every ability one by one, his strength and his identity. For many, there is the real fear of losing our minds or going crazy as daily tasks are more difficult and our concentration is poor. And this is because your mind is consumed with the loss and you are functioning from a low capacity of energy. After loss, another fear I had was about my health and welfare and those close to me. I remember becoming hypervigilant about myself and others. Any small pain or ache, and there was lots of those, felt like it could be something terrible, like cancer or a disease. And that made me worry about who would be there for my children, fear for their future, and also the safety and well-being of my family. If I hadn't heard from them, there was an urge to check up on them, that they were okay, they'd arrived safely, and so on. It was quite illogical, but there seemed danger around every corner, and vulnerability made me feel unsafe, and that others I loved were somehow at risk of danger or becoming ill or dying. It all felt very real, and it all is the signs of grieving. In the aftermath of a death, there's a mountain of administration, paperwork and tasks that have to be done. And this too can feel overwhelming and would often leave me immobilized by fear that I'd never cope alone. There are things also to learn that our other half perhaps has habitually done. And maybe we need to learn into how to do things like tax a car, sort insurance, maybe cook or use the washing machine and so forth. It's all very daunting and feels very scary. And then there's the fear of the future that looks so unfamiliar and not the way you'd expected or planned. Fear of what it holds, fear of living without your loved one. There's also a fear of losing relationships with friends and family, as you feel such a misery and a burden to be with. It's common to feel like you have nothing to offer but your sadness, which can make you worry that others will get fed up of you, and this can make you detach and isolate yourself from other people. It is a form of self-protection. This is why grief can feel like standing at the edge of a vast, dark ocean in the middle of a storm, unsure of what lies ahead and afraid to take the next step. From a psychological perspective, grief and fear are deeply tied to the attachment theory. When we form attachments, our brain creates neural pathways that associate safety and love and security with the people or things that we hold dear. So when a bond is severed, those pathways light up in distress, much like an alarm system triggered by danger. And the distress can manifest in the fear of being alone, of losing your footing, of facing life without a source of comfort and connection. One of the most poignant reasons grief feels like fear is that both are rooted in love. Fear arises when we're afraid of losing something we care about. Grief, on the other hand, is the realization of that loss and the transition between loving the person while they're here alive with us to be loving them when they're physically absent. Grief and fear are the evidence of how deeply we've loved and how much we yearn to protect what matters most to us. From a spiritual point of view, grief can feel like fear because it challenges the illusion of permanence, and it can also challenge our faith beliefs. We live much of our life assuming that the things and the people we love will always be there. And loss pulls back that curtain, revealing life's inherent fragility. And this revelation can be terrifying because it forces us to grapple with mortality, not just the loss of others, but also our own inevitable mortality. And yet many spiritual traditions remind us that this confrontation, while painful, can also be transformative. By embracing impermanence, we can now learn to live more fully, cherishing each moment as a gift. So how do we cope with all this fear? If you're feeling the fear that comes with grief, know that although it's very disruptive and unpleasant, it's natural and there is nothing wrong with you. You are not abnormal or going crazy. Your body, mind and spirit are processing an immense change, so keep reminding yourself of this. And here are some suggestions of ways that you can navigate this. Acknowledge your fear. Sometimes naming what you are feeling can help. Say it aloud or write it down. I feel scared because. Also write down what you are believing in that moment, or talk it through with someone who will understand without judgment or trying to fix you. Because this can help get perspective and help you see the truth about a thought pattern. If you're anxious about your health or others and are being hypervigilant about those you love, explain to them why you're doing this and why you feel this way, and ask them for extra reassurance and patience while your brain is adapting to loss. And if you need to get a health check, do so, as lots of alarming physical symptoms can pop up in grief. Understand that your body is reacting, and even taking medication temporarily is okay. Seek consolation from those around you and remind yourself that you're grieving and it's okay not to be okay. Be patient with yourself. Ground yourself. Engage yourself in practices that bring you back to the present, such as deep breathing, prayer, meditation, listening to soothing music, taking a relaxing bath or walking in nature. And keep a journal of your honest emotions and how you've dealt with them that day, and perhaps record the small wins and positive outcomes as you face those anxieties. Seek support. Explore your feelings with someone you trust, or find a counsellor or a grief group. Grief is heavy, but it becomes lighter when shared and externalised. Try to embrace the unknown territory. Try reframing uncertainty as possibility. The future may be unfamiliar, but it also holds space for healing and growth. And remind yourself again that your brain is adapting to your loss, and you won't always feel this way. Honour your love. Remember, the intensity of your grief reflects the depth of your connection, reminding yourself of the beauty of what you shared. Grief is a powerful teacher. Even when its lessons come wrapped in fear, it reminds us that life is precious, relationships are sacred, and love is eternal. So if grief feels like fear, don't push it away. Allow it in, feel it, and let it go to guide you towards transformation and healing. My personal antidote to fear was saying this verse from the Bible. In 2 Timothy it says, God has not given me a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And every time I felt fear, I would say it aloud and I'd repeat it until the fear subsided, and it really felt like medicine. Grief and fear are part of the same journey, the journey of being human, of loving deeply, and of finding meaning in the face of loss. You're not alone in this, and together we'll keep walking forward, one step at a time. Thank you for listening.